Okay, shalom. Welcome back to another edition of the Hebrew Matthew. And if you're new to this series, I want to strongly encourage you to go back and watch video 1 as we read through and introduce the book of Matthew in the Hebrew language. And I read through verse by verse in Hebrew. And in this video, we're on verse 9. So we're moving right along. In this video, we're actually going to bite off a little bit more, hopefully not more than we can chew, but we're going to read 2, 3, maybe even 4 verses in this video today. So here we go, verse 9. Uziyahu, holid et Yotam, holid et Achaz, Ve'achaz, holid et Chizkiyahu, and this is Hezekiah. Chizkiyahu holid et Menashe, or Menashe, holid et Amon, Ve'amon holid et Yoshiyahu. This is Josiah. Verse 11. Yoshiyahu holid et Yechanyahu, and this is, we would say, Jeconiah. Yechanyahu. Ve'et Echiv bimei galut Bavel. So I want to focus on these words right here. Bimei galut Bavel. And this is roughly translates to in the time of the galut to Bavel. And Bavel is Babylon, the city, the kingdom state, city-state of Babylon. And we know that this happens, this deportation or this galut, we know this happened in the year 586 BC. I don't want to get into the time frames and all that right now, but I wanted you to focus on this idea of galut. And I think it's really interesting that this translator chose this word galut because I think it's the perfect word to describe what happened at 586 BC. How the army of Bavel came in and conquered the southern kingdom of Judah and deported it, took it into exile, into galut in the land of Babylon. And as we know that the prophets foretold that this would happen and that it would need to happen, they would remain in a state of galut for 70 years. And it's there that we get stories, such as Daniel, and later on we get Esther, even though Esther took place in the Persian Empire. But this idea, this concept of galut is the perfect term because galut is a very saturated term. It's a very heavy term. Galut means the exile from the presence of Hashem, the exile, the separation from the presence of God. It's a very saddening term. So when God's presence is no longer accessible to you, you are in a state of galut. Galut. So the rabbis comment on this term quite a bit, and they talk about how, the nations will scorn Israel when it's in a state of galut. And by and large, the nation of Israel, the people of Israel, the people of the book, they are in a state of galut, a state of exile from the presence of God. Now we're beginning to see the restoration of the people of Israel into their land. The stage is being set, but there's no temple, there's no Kohanim, there's no priests that are operating right now. There is no Shekhinah, the presence of Hashem, the presence of God. We're in a state of galut. And what the rabbis tend to say about this is that, the people of Israel will be a source of ridicule among the nations where Hashem scatters them. But it will also serve to fulfill his purposes, his prophetic purposes, that the nations will see the people of Israel and that they will grab hold of the covenant of the people of Israel, and that they will want to follow the ways of the Lord, to follow the Torah. So the product of galut, so say the rabbis, is hit galut. Hit galut. You might be thinking, what is hit galut? Hit galut is the idea of revelation. Revelation. The idea and the exposure of God's people to his greater purposes and his greater plan for them. So we may be in a state of spiritual galut, in physical galut, but in that season of galut, we experience hit galut, revelation. And not only us, but the nations do as well. So it's really interesting if we go over to the translators of this Bible, chose this word here we are in the book of Revelation. The Revelation to John. And John is writing this in probably the 90s AD. The people of Israel are in a state of galut, a state of exile. The Romans have come in, they've leveled the temple, they've leveled the city of Jerusalem, burned it to the ground, and taken tens of thousands of Jewish slaves and distributed them all around the Roman provinces. But it's in the midst of all of this that John, one of the last remaining disciples and apostles of Yeshua, experiences this thing called a hit galut. You can see that word right there. And it's actually the title of this entire book. Ha-hit galut, the revelation. So this bears out even in our faith, even in the messianic faith and the faith of Yeshua the Messiah, that when we're in a time of galut, a time of exile, if you're open to it and you're expecting it, you might experience a hit galut, a revelation. So this says, hit galut, Yeshua HaMashiach. Hit galut, Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, the book of Matthew starts out very similar, doesn't it? It says, Hayuchasin shel Yeshua HaMashiach. This is the generations. This is how Yeshua came to be on earth. This is the beginnings, the history of Yeshua, the Messiah. Now, at the end of the Brit Chadashah, the New Testament, we have, here is the Hitgalut Yeshua HaMashiach. This is the revelation. And what is the revelation all about? The next several chapters of this book describe the coming of his kingdom and the restoration of all things, and the new heavens, the new earth, things like the resurrection of the dead. So when we are in a period of galut, be encouraged, because it is there that we will experience our hit galut, our revelation. Well, I hope this video has been encouraging and educational for you guys. Until the next time, shalom, and keep studying that Hebrew. Bye.